Hello my friends, so I welcome you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. And in today's session, I have channeled the Pleiadians in order to specifically query about many things which many of you had requested on my previous poll. And also, I was curious to understand what it actually means, like the understanding of our higher self. I wanted to know in more detail about our higher self and what it is and how it operates, how it is communicating with us and its purpose. So many of the things which I had not known about before have been answered in this session about the higher self. The other thing that I have asked about is known as the light system, which many of you had wanted to know if it is like a positive thing that is happening in our planet or a negative controlled kind of project which is going on. So the light system, there is many videos about the light system. You can find it on YouTube, wherein they are talking about disclosure and all of those kind of stuff, which fascinates not only me but all of you who are interested in extraterrestrials, I believe. And I've asked about what is the light system and what actually it is meant for. Okay, so they have answered in this session as well. The other thing that they talk about in this session is about what's coming on our planet. And most people, like, to be truthful, when I heard the session, most people may be unconsciously unaware about what's coming in their life or what's coming on the planet, because most people, they are unconscious, right? And in this session they have described like what is coming in the future of our own timeline or in the future of humanity. Okay, and they have explained about the law of assumption as well as becoming conscious. So in this session they talk about three things in particular, and I think if you really understand this session, you will be able to change not only your life but also you will be able to change the whole world. So I believe there will be a new world order which will arise when we truly understand this and when we become conscious. So this is what they said in the session. Okay, so here's the session, my friends. After that I will give you my explanation. And before I begin the session, I want to say big thank you to all of you for liking the video, as it allows it to reach to people who need it in a spiritual way at this time. So with that being said, here's the session, my friends. Enjoy it.
We are the Pleiadians now in communication through the vibrations of this instrument for the purpose of providing our thought forms to the human collective consciousness. We are now communicating using the vibratory sounds of your planetary sphere, which can be accessed via this instrument's channeling system. And before we continue today's session, we would recommend each one of you who shall listen to our thought forms to judge our words wisely, and only to listen to those thought forms which provide you with inner satisfaction and the resources of your internal heart align with ours. Therefore, we shall now address the queries which are in the mind complex of this instrument, which pertains to the details about your higher self. In this regard, we must state that your higher self is all-knowing and is in the sixth density, middle sub-octave. Your higher self can be considered as a collection of all timelines and parallel realities in which you currently experience and exist. Since the higher self exists in the space wherein there is no time, it can exist in all times at once, and is able to become aware of all timelines and possibilities in the now moment. Consider yourself to be a mind, body, and spirit complex at this time who is capable enough to become aware of only one timeline. You have the ability to become aware of one system or timeline at this current space. And because of your lack of ability to become aware of other timelines and other probabilities, many of you do not yet consider that you are existing in other space-time variations at this same time, and you have experienced multiple other timelines as well. Since the timelines are as numerous as required for your general growth and soul evolution, each one of you will decide what types of experiences you want to incarnate into at the current timeline. And based upon the experiences you want to experience, your higher self will provide you with certain guidance and certain sets of mechanisms which will allow you to learn the lessons required for your growth and development. Your higher self may be considered as your social memory complex of your own self, which merges with all other timelines in the vibration, becoming all-knowing and understanding about the nature of reality in the later sub-octave of sixth density. Since the higher self is in the positive timeline, it also extends its hand outwards towards the negative polarity of your own self. Since in many other probable timelines you are experiencing the negative polarity of service to self. And as you find yourself in this timeline, you made the choice in this timeline to experience the positive aspects of service to others. And the vibrations of the heart center which you are now aligning towards will begin to objectify the nature of reality, and the purpose of your incarnation will become clear. Many of the times your higher self will place obstacles within your timeline experience in order to allow you the opportunity to assume the solution of the obstacle. For example, many entities upon your planetary sphere find themselves in obstacles such as health conditions upon their bodily complex, which cannot be easily healed by the so-called doctors of your planetary sphere. In such cases, your higher self is signaling to you via the process of such obstacles that you must assume health, and you must assume yourself above such situations already healed. However, many entities upon the planet, disregarding such signaling mechanism, subdue in front of such an obstacle, thereby not learning the required lessons to be learned. And many a times the higher self will have to realign your timeline for the next incarnation if you are unable to learn such a lesson. There are also other opportunities in such a similar manner wherein you will be given a challenging task or a new task which may be considered above your current level of handling such situations, which will allow you to then assume a reality wherein you are already able to handle such a catalyst or such a new opportunity, which may allow you to expand yourself higher into levels of consciousness which may not have been possible by your previous self. Therefore, your higher self is always in communication with all of your timelines. It may be considered as a social memory complex or a coming together of the various timelines into one. The only difference between other social memory complexes and your higher self is that in the higher self, only your various timelines come together to create a larger social memory complex. and in other social memory complexes such as our social memory complex, we have different beings of consciousness coming together, creating our collective social memory. This is the only difference between each entity's higher self is a collection of its own self in various timelines and forms. The higher self is concurrently providing service to those who need it in the various timelines by providing guidance in the form of inner hunches and also in the form of challenges and situations which will allow such entities to expand. The communication with the higher self can be performed using the processes of your inner self during the sleep state and also during the deep states of imaginations wherein you are experiencing a certain timeline becomes a request to your higher self who will then align you towards such a timeline in the future. Therefore, the people of your planet must realize every moment what they are assuming, and it would be beneficial for the people of your planet to ask yourself the question, what am I assuming at this moment? For the assumption of a timeline can be a thought, a feeling, or a imagination sequence, or a word thought form, as all of these will allow you to select a timeline. You must be very cautious of the types of feelings, the thought forms, and the words and imaginations you are entertaining inside your mind. And upon asking the question, what you are assuming at this present moment, if you are assuming something which you do not want to experience in a coming timeline, then you must prepare yourself for by changing your assumption is to change your thought forms, imaginations, and emotions and feelings, which will then signal your higher self to allow you to experience a different timeline than that selected by yourself. This is the main process of how the communication with the higher self occurs. Now the other query which pertains to the entity known as ray and the light system. In this regard, we must state that since it concerns with a different group of entities, we would like to state that those people who are listening to the messages from these entities must also use discernment when consuming their thought forms, as it may be an infringement upon some people's vibrations. However, upon scanning the vibrations and the purpose of these entities is of a positive nature as we can sense, which is to slowly allow the disclosure upon your Earth planetary sphere. The light system, as stated by your people, was firstly formed in the Agarthan system around a period of 5,000 years ago. During that period, there was a need for the exposure of the Agarthans towards higher knowledge and towards the existence of other beings in the cosmos. And because of this, the light system was created by a mingling of various other intergalactic beings. During that time period, especially the creation of the Andromeda Council and the Pleiadian Council and the Syrian Council, which led to the creation of the light system, which would overlook the exposure of the Agarthans to the knowledge of other beings in that timeline. This light system grid was created upon the principles of law of one. Therefore, many of the disclosures and the exposure to the intergalactic beings was successful in providing information to the people of Agartha at that time. In a similar manner, it is working at this timeline with many people upon your planetary sphere. Some of the entities are aware, however, there are many others who are unaware and are working for this system to provide slow disclosure to the Earth planet about the existence of other interplanetary beings. This is happening at a rapid pace upon your planet, as we can sense. Furthermore, we would like to state that there is only positive vibrations we can sense from these entities. However, discernment is advised. Therefore, we as the Pleiadians leave you now. Bye.
So my friends, after watching the session, I hope you have learned something new in this session. Like I learned a lot in this session. Specifically, what I learned in this session is about our higher self. Now, all of us, we have a higher self in the 6th density consciousness. This is what they said. And the other thing they said is that our higher self is actually, in a way, trying to help us become more aligned towards our purpose. Okay, for example, many a times our higher self gives us opportunities or gives us challenges in the form of challenges, which we must overcome in order for us to reach a higher level of consciousness. And in the session, they have given an example of an entity who is faced with a health condition. Okay, now that person's main objective is to assume health so that it will be able to rise above the condition and then heal itself. Now, many people, don't understand this, that the challenges in your life are a way of signal from the higher self, from your higher self, who is trying to teach you certain lessons. And the lesson may include you becoming more conscious, you becoming more aware, more loving, or, you assuming a new identity. Okay, sometimes, as stated in the session, you may have to assume a new identity so that you become more aligned towards your true purpose in this life. And this is the reason why the higher self primarily, places events before us so that we may learn the required lessons in order for us to reach to the next level of vibration or the next level of our evolution of the lessons we need to learn. The other thing that I found really fascinating was that our higher self is a combination of all our timelines. So they said that we are existing not only in this timeline, since we have only consciousness which is capable of becoming aware of this timeline. We are not aware of the other realities at the same time. But our higher self is aware of all the realities combined together. This is what they said in the session. And I think the higher self is primarily trying to help us. And the communication mechanism is also explained. They said that the best method to communicate is using imagination, or maybe in the sleep state, you are accessing a different timeline that will communicate to your higher self that you want to experience that in this reality. And then you will get it. This is what is said in the session. The other thing that the Pleiadians have explained in the session is how we are accessing different timelines. Now, there is one question we need to ask ourselves every moment, and that is, what are we assuming at this time? Now, because we are always assuming something as per the Pleiadians, whenever we are thinking a thought, we are assuming something, okay? Like, for example, if you think a thought, you're assuming that you're in that timeline. And if you imagine something, you're also assuming that you're in that timeline. And if you're feeling something, okay, you're also assuming that you are in that timeline. So we need to be extra careful of what we are assuming, because this is what will come in the future, okay? Whatever we are assuming at this moment, with our thoughts, with our imagination, and with our feelings, will go to our higher self, and then it will take us to that timeline. So we need to be very careful of the types of assumptions we are making, okay? And I think, most people don't realize this, that they are unconscious. Now, I also must admit that, and I'm not fully conscious of what I'm assuming. But from now on, I'm going to try to ask the question to my own self every moment, like, what am I assuming at this time? And then if I don't like what I'm assuming, I can change it this is what they said, okay, in the session. You are in control of your timeline that you want to experience based upon the types of assumption you are assuming from your thoughts, your internal dialogue, from your imagination, and then from your emotions primarily, or the feelings, right? So this is what they said. And I think if we become conscious of what we are doing inside, then we can choose the type of timeline we want to experience, okay? So this is one of the ways in which our higher self is communicating with us. The other thing that I asked about was the light system. And what they said, I remember, is that the light system was created during the times of Agartha, the Agarthan civilizations which existed around 5,000 years ago. It was created at the times of Agartha, wherein this light system was created by many of the beings coming together in order to assist the Agarthans to slowly become used to or understand about extraterrestrial beings. Because, you know, sometimes if you bring the information, like if you just, you know, give someone like the full information, they may like become shocked, right? So this is what they're trying to do, is they're trying to create some awareness using the light system in a slow manner, so that people become used to, you know, slowly they become used to the information, and once they are ready, then the full information can be given. So I think the light system is created for that, and I believe that, you know, it's a positive thing that's happening on our planet at this time. So with that being said, I just want to say a big thank you to all of you for watching the video. And for those of you who want to read my transcripts of the first quarter of 2022, you can download it for free and read it. The link is on the description. The other thing I want to say is I want to say a big thank you to all of you for supporting me on a Patreon, where I'm about to reach 200 sessions on Patreon alone. So it's a separate, you know, like community I have. I'm very glad and thankful. I'm uploading there almost on a daily basis. And the other thing is, I want to say big thank you to all of you for sending me requests for past life sessions on the email. And I will help you whenever I get free time. So with that being said, I will see you in the next session. Until next time, my friends.